Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to another Chamber Check-In episode from Idaho's only five-star accredited chamber. Today, I'm so thrilled and honored to be able to feature Chad Cripe, the editor of the Idaho Statesman. You know, I think the Statesman's just a little bit older than the chamber, Chad, as far as being in the community. And I've had the opportunity to work with you and your team for the last 10 years with the chamber, and I'm so glad to be able to kind of share the history and the story of the Statesman. We get the Statesman here at the chamber. I subscribe online. I love the access and the stories that you guys provide from local and latest news and all the sports, right? So thanks for continuing to produce such a quality content. Chad, these chamber check-ins, we started streaming stories of our chamber members right when COVID hit. We had to go home, and as an organization that gathers people for a living, and you can't gather people anymore, we had to find different ways. We had to shift our sails to match our mission of member engagement, and this is what kind of one of the things that spawned from that. And to date, I think we're almost 450 of these broadcasts, and the Statesman has been a member of the chamber, I think, since the inception of the chamber, which is a unique thing. And you guys do such a great job. But, the whole goal is to share our members' stories, their products and services. But I really love sharing the people. So let's start out with that, Chad. Tell us a little bit about your background and history of work that led you into journalism, and then how you became editor of the Idaho Statesman.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Paul, for doing this and for having me and highlighting Idaho Statesman. I really appreciate that. You mentioned, I didn't even know that fact about us being an original charter member of the Boise Chamber of Commerce until I met you for lunch one day. And that's been one of my favorite facts ever since, is because it just shows the history of this place. And I actually dug out of storage the other day. We were cleaning some stuff up, and I found a thing that was 100 years at the chamber placard that was from 1985. So that was 30 years ago that we hit the 100-year mark. So that's really cool. So I am not quite that old, but I have been here for a very long time. So I always tell people that I got into journalism because I loved sports as a kid, and I am not tall nor fast nor strong and was not going to be a professional athlete. So I wanted to find a way to be involved in sports. And so that's really why I got into journalism. As a kid, my dream was either to be a play-by-play announcer or to be a sports journalist. And I decided to, when I went to school, so I went to Washington State University. High school, I did a little bit of both. So I did some high school newspaper. I was on the speech team, trying to kind of feel some of that out. Graduated from high school in Bend, Oregon, but moved around a bunch as a kid. And I ended up at Washington State University. And I went there because they had a strong program for broadcast and print journalism. And so my first year there, I joined the student newspaper staff, and I joined the student broadcasting staff, and did both for my first year in college, and pretty quickly realized that print journalism was the one for me. And so my second year, I stopped doing any of the broadcast stuff, really focused in on print journalism, and I was the sports editor my sophomore year at the Daily Evergreen at Washington State. I was
cool.
different kinds of editors my junior year, and I was really lucky to being from Bend. At the time, we had a Northwest League team, same league as the Hawks at the time, and it was the Bend Rockies. And after my freshman year, I'd written a letter to the paper in Bend and said, "Hey, I'm coming back for the summer. Is there anything I can do?" And they were an afternoon paper, and their sports guys all had to work in the morning because they were, in addition to being reporters, they were responsible for putting together the paper. And none of them liked covering the professional baseball team at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So they let me do it. So they hired me for a summer to cover the Bend Rockies baseball team. And that was an awesome summer doing that. And then my second year, I went back. The Rockies left, went to Portland. They brought an independent league team. And so I got to do it again after my second year of college. And then after my third year of college, I'd written, letters to every big paper in the country wanting an internship. And I had put on there that I wanted to do sports, but I would do news, I would do copy desk, whatever it takes. And fortunately, the news editor in Boise at the time, Holly Anderson, plucked my resume out of the pile and called me and offered me a copy editing internship for that summer after my junior year, and that's how I ended up in Boise. And I was sort of ahead of things on my schoolwork, and so I'd finished all my journalism classes at that point. Wasn't super thrilled about going back to school and spending a whole bunch more money and getting deeper into debt. So at the end of the summer, I was saying I wasn't real excited to go back, and she said, "Well, you don't have to go back. We've got a job open." And so they hired me as a copy editor at barely 21 years old, and without my degree yet. And
Wow.
I finished my degree remotely. Took a few classes at Boise State and transferred them up to Washington State, and took some what were called correspondence classes at the time. Now they would be online classes and probably way easier. Correspondence classes were read this giant textbook and fill out all this busy work and send it in. So that was how I finished my degree. And so that's how I got here. And then, but like I said, I really wanted to be in sports. And so after about a year and a half, I moved into sports and was kind of started as a sports reporter / copy editor for a while. And then I was a high school sports reporter, and then I was covering our minor league sports teams. And then in 2002, I got to take over the Boise State football beat, which was a huge break for me. And I did that for 14 years. I like to say I was the good luck charm, because 2002 was the first year that Boise State was a top 25 football program. And things haven't quite been the same since I left after the 2015 season. So I like to say I was the good luck charm. Got all three of those Fiesta Bowls in there, which
Nice.
was a ton of fun to cover. And, it was cool too. We were sort of at the forefront of this digital transition that we'll talk more about. But sports was really at the front of that, I think nationally and particularly here. And Boise State football drove a lot of that. And so we were doing a lot of stuff early that maybe the rest of the newsroom wasn't doing yet here. And so that was a big thing for me, getting to try all those things, trying video, trying live chats, trying live video, trying all these different things. And so I did that, finally burned out on that after 14 years of it, and said, I want to go be the outdoors reporter now. And they let me do it. So I was the outdoors reporter for like a year and a half. And then our sports editor left. And so I moved into that job and was a sports editor for a short time. And then sort of a whole bunch of different things happened. And I ended up being the assistant editor, which is basically the number 2 editor for the newsroom, in 2019. And then early 21, I got promoted to the editor job. So I've been in this job almost 3 years now. So yeah, that was the path. It was, it's been quite a ride, and I love Boise. So, I just being able to be here this long and be at this paper this long, it's not a normal thing. And I'm very much fortunate to get to do it.
Wow, Chad, thanks for bringing me up to speed. I had no idea that history. We've had a couple conversations over the years, and you've had a lot of publishers as well that you've gone through your time, and so you've seen a lot. For those that don't know the story of the Statesman, give us the 30,000-foot view story. When did it start? Maybe some of the big impactful things over the years. I love sharing the about us stories of businesses. So in a condensed version, Chad, for those, because there are a lot of people moving here that just don't know, right? So let's tell that story.
Yeah, so started as the Tri-Weekly Statesman in 1864. I've got a copy of the first edition on the shelf behind me. I like to look at it and joke that, they must have had way better eyeglasses back then or something, because the font is so small, it's almost impossible to read. But yeah, started in 1864. So been around for, almost 160 years. We had a big 150th celebration 9 years ago. Over the years, been owned by some different companies in the journalism industry. And, I kind of lived through all that. So when I started here, we were owned by Gannett, which is the publisher of USA Today. We were somewhat traded at one point to Knight Ridder. There was, I think, the Tallahassee paper and one of the Washington papers, I think, was involved in a trade that went on. So we ended up with Knight Ridder for a short time. And then McClatchy bought Knight Ridder. And so then we ended up with McClatchy. So in a very short period, we hopped from Gannett to Knight Ridder to McClatchy, three of the biggest newspaper companies around. And then, more recently, I think pretty well known that right around the time of COVID, McClatchy went through a bankruptcy. They were saddled with a lot of debt from that purchase of Knight Ridder. And then we came out of that bankruptcy as a much stronger company. And I think you see that with us today. 3 years ago when I got this job, our staff had been depleted, and we've been able to rebuild that staff and develop the continuity that you want, and stable. That's what I was looking for. We've been able to stabilize things and invest in our newsroom and invest in our journalism, and you see the results of that with some of the stories we've had the last 3 years. And so, it's been this industry has been a crazy ride for the last 20 years, 18, something like that. Right, from that start of the Great Recession through now, it's just. And I think it's going to be for a long time still to come because of the disruption of the internet and the digital world.
Well, you had mentioned your people and the stability of your people, and Bina Jensen, who has been there for 4 decades plus, and she won't like me saying that, but just retired. And it's folks like Bina and you and others. Tell us a little bit about your team, because that's impressive. When I talk about Albertsons and when they do a grand opening, the baker comes out, I've been here for 30 years. The pharmacist comes out, I've been here for 25 years, right? And the meat manager comes out, I've been here 25 years. That says something about the culture. And we were talking before this broadcast about that. Tell us a little bit about your team and how crucial that is.
Yeah, and it's changed a little bit the last couple of years, but I always told people, like, if somebody was thinking about coming here for a job, like, once people come to the Statesman, they don't leave Boise. They might decide at some point that, hey, after 20 years of being a journalist, I want to do something a little less stressful or something, but they don't leave Boise. Because so I think that's a big part of it, is Boise's just such a great place to live that once we get people here, they don't want to leave. And so that's a big part of it. But yeah, we have always had a really tight knit staff. It's smaller than it used to be. When it was bigger, it would be more like tight knit within, like our sports department when I was in sports. We were a very tight knit group, and so we've always had really strong connections within our newsroom, and that has continued today. And it's we do have a decent number of people who are 2-3 years in, but we still have, as you mentioned, Bynum was here for 40 years, 40 plus years. Michael Deeds has been here for 30 plus years. Right. I've been here for 27. Darren Oswald is one of our photographers, has been here right around 27. Dana Olin right around 27. The three of us all started within like 6 months of each other, and are all still here. And Catherine Jones, who retired, great photojournalist who retired a couple of years ago. She was here more than 30 years. And so there is a lot of those stories of people who've been in our newsroom for decades. And it is one of the great things about this place. And now as we've rebuilt, we have more of a mixture. We have some of us, like me, have been here a very long time. We have a core group of people who've been here for 1, 2, 3 years, who we've added here in the last few years since I got this job. But you're not seeing, and I always knock on wood when I say this, but you're not seeing a lot of turnover among that group as we're bringing people in. They're really appreciating, A, what Boise has to offer, and B, what our newsroom has to offer, and the work that we do and the support that we give them to do that kind of work that they want to do. And we're able to keep people together, which is a great thing.
I remember your space on the freeway there on Orchard and the freeway there, Curtis, and that was the big newsroom, right? You produced your papers there for many years. Where are you at now? Where's your physical location?
That's a secret. We keep the no. There is a sign out, so it's not that big a secret. We're off of Park Boulevard, near the Ram on Broadway, so very near there.
Okay.
It's a great space. It's way different than what we used to be because we're not a production facility anymore like we were back then. My number one priority when I went shopping for office space was windows because by the end we had no windows in our newsroom in that other building. We have 2 walls of glass here, which is great. My number 2 priority was something near the Greenbelt so people could ride their bikes to work if they wanted, which is a huge draw in Boise. And I use that in recruiting when I'm talking to job candidates. Like, hey, it's a very bikeable city. You can bike to work. You can bike to most things. And so those are my 2 big priorities. But yeah, that's where we're at. And I don't miss the old building. I'll tell you that. I drive by it now and then. I spent a lot of my life there, but it was not a pleasant necessarily place to be from a physical standpoint. The people around you were great. The physical surroundings were not so great.
Also close to the Greenbelt and great connection there on the freeway. Anyway.
Yeah. Now it's going to be storage units. So
okay.
I'm looking forward to touring the building and see how it comes out as storage units.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I heard about that too. Hey, tell us some new stuff. As a daily reader, either online or physical paper, things have changed, right? You made a big announcement of the reduction of the physical paper to a certain amount of days, and now the e-edition that comes out, and then Together Treasure Valley. I want to talk a little bit about that, but tell us the changes for those that don't know and who may be interested in subscribing to the Statesman. Tell them what they'll experience.
Yeah, so big transition that we went through last month. As I said, the digital disruption of our industry has been a huge thing, and so we've all been walking this line for years now of trying to hold on to a print audience and develop a digital audience, and doing those 2 things at the same time has been really difficult in this industry. And so we're pushing that another step toward that digital side, which is where the future of our industry is. And so to do that, as part of that, we're cutting back our print paper to 3 days a week. So our 3 print papers now are Wednesdays, Fridays, and it's a Sunday edition that's delivered on Saturday. So it's a little bit funky. They're delivered by the Postal Service now. So same day as the day that they're the day of publication. So the Wednesday paper shows up in the mail on Wednesday. Friday paper shows up in the mail on Friday. Sunday paper shows up in the mail on Saturday because there is no Sunday postal delivery. So that's the print side of it. We beefed up those papers so they're all a little bit bigger than they used to be. Really should be the best features of print in there. So in terms of comics and puzzles and all that kind of stuff, and then in terms of the journalism, we're putting our best stories, our in-depth stories in those 3 editions. And then on the digital side, so we have the e-edition is extremely popular, has been for a very long time, as traditionally a replica of the print paper that you could view online. So on those 3 print days, we still have the replica of the paper in there available. The other days, we have what we call a dynamic e-edition. It's a slightly different format, but because of the simplification of the format, we're able to put stories in there at 11, 12 o'clock at night, which we couldn't do that with print anymore with deadlines. And so, and then on the days that we do have print, you get the replica plus the dynamic pages. And so, for example, this week, Boise State's playing in the Mountain West Championship game on Saturday. We obviously can't get that in the Sunday paper that's delivered on Saturday. But if you pull up the e-edition on Sunday morning, you will have the coverage from that game at the front of the e-edition. And so we offer that e-edition 7 days a week, the print 3 days a week. And then we still have, our website and social media channels and newsletters and all of that stuff that is updated, all day, every day. We pretty much every once in a while, there's an exception, but we have a reporter staff 365 days a year. So there's things being updated every day.
Chad, IdahoStatesman.com. Website is scrolling on the bottom of the screen. I'm going to keep that rolling here for a little bit. Well, I got you for a final couple minutes. Is there anything else that you want to educate the public on? And then I would love you to kind of share what Together Treasure Valley is, because we see the green benches. What are they all about? So maybe just finish with some of those remarks.
Yeah, I'll start with Together Treasure Valley, just so I don't forget the second piece of it. So it's a great program started in 2016 that gathered companies from around the Treasure Valley, and not just companies like, the Boise Airport has been part of it. And so some different entities around the Treasure Valley. And it pools some resources to then fund projects around the community, in addition to the green benches that you do see. So it's over $1 million worth of contributions since 2016. Last year was $156,000 spread across 8 projects, and they really look for things that are going to have a lasting impact in the community. And so things like I remember I went out to the cornhole. It's one of the parks in Meridian, and now I'm forgetting. I think it's Story Park has a cornhole set up. So I went out to the grand opening, got to throw cornhole bags. So things like that. There's fountains in the park, and things that are going to have a lasting community impact. And so it's a really cool program that we're proud to be a part of. And thanks for giving the shout out for that. The thing I tell people that I always wish they could know, see, whatever, is our staff, how dedicated they are, how much all of this means to them. I mean, you get the hateful emails now and then, and you're like, if you just saw the way these people go about their job and the amount of time and heart and effort they put into the things that they do, I think that's the thing nobody can ever see. And I think sometimes you can tell from a finished product, but a lot of times you can't. And so we, our staff really cares about particularly finding things where, we can highlight a wrong, where we can potentially bring attention to something that needs attention to it that isn't getting attention. And a perfect example of that was last year, Becca Severansky, our education reporter, did a big investigative story on how restraint and seclusion techniques were being used in schools around the state, and how they were, a lot of it gets used on kids who have disabilities, and there was no standard protocol for how to use them, no standard training, there was no regulation of it. There had been some efforts that fell through to do that. And, that story published in November of last year, and there was a new law through the legislature this year.
Wow.
So that quickly changed the law of the state. And so things like that, I think, are where that takes a lot of effort and a lot of, being willing to stick with it and chase things, and, probably doing some stuff at 11 o'clock at night or taking phone calls and text messages, and people just don't see that side of it, I don't think. And so I'm really proud of the staff that we have and how much they all care about the work that they do. And that's always my thing that I wish people knew that they don't know.
Chad, thank you so much for sharing that story. The Statesman makes a positive impact on this community and this entire state of Idaho, for that matter. Thanks for your 140 years of membership, Chad, with the Boise Metro Chamber. We truly appreciate the continued partnership that we've had over the years.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for everything the Chamber does for our community.
Have a great Christmas, Chad. I'll talk to you soon.